Hey, Dar Payment here. And I ask you a question. Is it just me, or have you been noticing things around us have been pretty emotional, volatile lately? What I did in response to this is put together a presentation that I shared just recently with my monthly transformational spirituality circle about emotional triggering, what it is, and how to deal with it and stop it if you're emotionally triggered, whether the trigger is from an external source like the news or internally from coming from yourself. So it's packed full of some really great stuff. The thing is about maybe 45 minutes to an hour long, absolutely totally free. I just want to share this loving little project forward with you to help you, especially right now, how things are going globally as well as locally for many of you, especially for those of us here in the US with the upcoming elections. Things are getting a little bit crazy here. So I just wanted to put something forward that you can enjoy. I put a description, a chapter description in the description box below for you, so you can consume the information at your own pace. Other than that, please enjoy. If you like it, please share it with your family and friends. I know it has some valuable tips and techniques in there that you can use immediately. And also, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more free content like this. Blessings, love, and light, and I'll see you at the next video.
Well, today we're going to be talking about a really important subject, mindfulness and emotional survival. And I made this mainly for empaths and for the highly sensitives, but this is for everybody. And to be honest, everybody in our circle are empaths. Infinite Love has brought these people with these spiritual abilities, the gift of empathy, or as we say in the psychic world, clairsentience, clear feeling, into my experience because I'm one as well, right? And this topic is so important, you guys, and it was actually handpicked for you by my own spiritual team because it's timely and relevant to our current events. Think about it: the virus, social unrest, the upcoming election, and really on top of the pressures many of you are facing at home right now, needed to be sheltered in with family members, and it causes you to experience a barrage of emotions because you can't get away. You know what I'm talking about here, some of you. But these emotions, if you think about it, can be physically, mentally, and emotionally taxing if you don't know how to deal with them. So consider this for a moment. Have you noticed recently how certain topics evoke in you a variety of strong emotions? Say yes or no in the chat box, because I'm talking mainly about the unpleasant emotions that are being triggered from false news narratives and political agendas. Yeah, yes, yes, everyone, yes, 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 yes. I'm 100% here for you for this. And that's why my team picked this, right? But here's the thing. Did you know there is an entire science that the media uses to influence you, to buy, to cry, to hate, to love, to laugh, and to surprise you? Which means one thing, and this is huge: you are being controlled by the media and its agenda. Now, we're not going to be getting into the science behind this type of control today. You guys already kind of are aware of this. I know many of you are feeling this right now. However, I do want you to be able to learn to be in control and to master any emotional triggering that may come your way within the next few months. And really, there's two types, and we're going to talk about this again. There's two types of this control. There's the external, which we're getting from the media, right? External triggers, emotional triggers. And then we have the internal as well. So we'll be talking about both of those in a little bit, and you'll get a better idea what I mean about the internal ones. The external is easier for us to know. So, but what I do want to do to you, for you today, because it's so important, is share with you some valuable tips and techniques that will allow you to keep your mind and your emotions balanced and clear, right? So that you can stay calm, cool, and collected with whatever might come your way. Let me just, I have to learn this new, there we go. Okay, come on. Are you going to do anything here? Okay, so what are our key takeaways today? Our key takeaways today from what you're going to learn at the end of this is 3 effective ways to avoid being emotionally triggered, and whether it's an external trigger or an internal trigger. How to deal with negative people and events. That's huge right now. We really need this. It's going to start getting crazy, guys, from here to election day to even the holidays, because things are so strange and so unsure right now, right? A lot of people are in fear. We don't need that. We need to maintain our own personal power. But we also are going to learn some tips on how to keep your energy body strong and vibrant. That's your first line of defense, right? And then I'm going to teach you a quick energy reset technique energy reset techniques that you can use if you're emotionally triggered. And I even have a little bonus in there, and you'll see that as we progress through our presentation today. And then at the end, we're going to have a group energy clearing and reset. So we'll do that as a group. And we're also going to set a blessing intention candle for something that you wish to manifest from now to the next meeting. So it's going to be fun for us to do that. So when you manifest together, you can really speed up that process. So it's really kind of cool. Oh, there's a quote I wanted to share. I forgot to do that. I apologize. And this is one of the primary reasons I want you to be able to stay in the place of balance, because it's so important for you and I to stay, once I said, calm and collected, right? So Pema Chodran, she's one of my favorite Buddhist teachers. She says, Buddhist, listen to me, inner peace begins the moment you choose to not allow another person or event to control your emotions, right? Isn't that true? And I care for each and every one of you, and I want you to experience the freedom to choose for yourself how you wish to feel and respond to life. And of course, it's been throughout the years my soul to soul intention to provide you with strategies and tips to transform your mind, body, and spirit. And that's what we do in the circle. So I know what I'm sharing with you today will be a benefit for you. One second here. I know we did the key takeaways. So let's talk now exactly what is an emotional trigger. What do I mean by an emotional trigger? Okay. I want to share with you what the trigger is, but more importantly, what a negative emotional trigger is. Right? And I shared with you before, it's important to note that we have triggers, emotional triggers, which are external from the media and internal. But here's what an emotional trigger is. It's any topic or experience that makes you feel uncomfortable, that results in the expression of anger, aggression, shame, guilt, sadness, fear, or helplessness. Now, I just want to make something really, really clear, because this comes up a lot. What we're talking about here are negative emotional triggers and not the emotions themselves. Let me repeat that. We will be talking about negative emotional triggers and not the emotions themselves. Because obviously, you know that some of these emotions may really be appropriate at certain times, such as the feeling of aggression towards another when you're trying to protect a loved one from harm, or anger, when somebody violates you in some way. So once again, it's not the emotions themselves, but the trigger, the emotional trigger. Because as Pema Chodran said in the quote I previously shared with you, when you know what emotional triggers are, you can choose to not expose yourself to the trigger and sources of the trigger sources and the situations, as well as to choose how you want to think, feel, and more important, respond to that trigger or situation. And so the idea is not to run away from these situations and create a protective bubble, that separates from the outer world, because that's impossible, right? It's silly to think about too. But really to learn to tune in and to pay attention when emotional triggers present themselves to you, which brings us to a really important question, which is this: how do you know you're being emotionally triggered? How do you know this? Does anyone know? If you know, type it in the chat box. How do you know? Oh, Betty, I like that. Not me. I don't watch TV. Yeah, you know what? I actually, I'm with Betty here. I, I, I do separate myself from certain things that I know that for the external triggers, the things that I can shut off that trigger me. I shut it off. I have one, I shared this before in a meeting. I have one news source that I go to. It's called All Sides News. I go on the internet. It has all the views and I look at the middle. I look at the middle and then I decide for myself. So, okay, Sarah says about the triggers, maybe when feeling the situation controls you and not the, yeah, that's true, you and not the situation. That's true. I like that. She said, let me repeat that, maybe feeling that the situation controls you and not you the situation. That's huge. That's very profound. I want you to know that you're being emotionally triggered when the emotional response is out of proportion to the triggering stimulus. Let me say that again. You're being emotionally triggered when the emotional response is out of proportion to the triggering stimulus. And this is regardless if the trigger is an internal trigger or an external one. So what do I mean? I want to really drive this home. Let me share with you. This is a true story, okay? This is a great example. I was in CVS last week, and the clerk that was checking people out had an American flag pinned to her name tag. And the man standing in line in front of me, when he went up and to pay for his items, when he saw it, he became enraged. I mean, you guys, enraged. And he screamed at her at the top of his lungs. And he says, "Are you making a political statement about my beliefs?" And then he became so angry. Check this out. This is a mature man to a young girl. He became so angry, you guys, he threw a bottle of beer at her, trying to hit her in the face. And then he stomped off. I mean, what a jerk, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. And of course, there was surveillance tape of the entire thing, and another store employee took a picture of the man getting to his car as well as the guy's license plate. But when I went up, she was just like in shock, visibly shaken. And she said, the supervisor ran up, who was stalking nearby, ran to make sure she was okay. She said to her supervisor, I put the flag on for the month of July to celebrate Independence Day, and I forgot it was on there. I didn't know there was such a problem with me wearing an American flag. And I know this is an extreme example, you guys, and you've probably seen examples all around you right now of what I'm talking about, you as well, seen with your own eyes, right? But I'm sure it really gives you an idea at how one's emotional response can be totally out of proportion to the triggering stimulus. Which brings us to another really important question. What causes you to be triggered in the first place? And this is more so with your internal triggers and not the external, because the media knows how to trigger you externally, right? But this has to do more with your internal triggers, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But what causes you to be triggered in the first place? And to me, this was super interesting. Super interesting, because modern psychology has shown through various studies that from the age of 0 to 7 years old, you and I learn how to feel and respond to the world around us from our parents or other caregivers. And some of these things you and I were directly taught and told, and other feelings, emotions, and behaviors were modeled before us. And you also made conclusions between the ages of 0 to 7. You made your own conclusions and your own personal impressions, or your own conclusions based on these own personal impressions of what you thought was happening around you at that time. But think about it. And this is where some people get stuck and they don't realize, why am I acting like this? I don't get it. What happens as a young child, when you make your own personal impressions, your perceptions are flawed because you don't have enough life experience to make a true judgment. You're seeing it from the eyes of a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7-year-old, right? For example, I had a client come for spiritual counseling last week, and this client had intimacy issues with her partner, right? And she shared with me that she never really felt loved in the relationship. And through I do something called tarot therapy, where it uses a lot of psychology, but also using, intuition as well. But through tarot therapy, we uncovered what was a really subtle hidden emotional trigger. So what we did through our session, I had my client continue to go back in her memory to the first time she remembered feeling unloved by a male. And she said she couldn't remember, she got all the way back when she was 4 years old. She says, I couldn't remember my father ever hugging me, holding me, she said, holding my hand or picking me up as a child. And she said, I also had a really extremely unpleasant memory climbing up to my father's lap on my 4th birthday and having him drop me onto the floor. And I can see when I was looking at her, obviously we're doing it through Zoom, but when I was looking at her, I could see, that the emotional pain, in her eyes. And she actually started crying, but because she was so committed, and I was committed as well to get underneath this memory, in her session, I had her call her mother, who was still living, and asked her if she could recall the incident at my client's 4th birthday party when her dad dropped her from his lap onto the floor. And check this out, okay? Her mother relayed the following story to us, which my client said she was never aware of. So when my client turned 3.5 years old, her father developed severe arthritis in his hands, back, and spine. And as a result, he was no longer able to hold her hand or pick her up. And the day when she climbed into his lap, he was unable to support her due to his pain. So he didn't dump her. He was trying to hold on to her, but he couldn't, because he couldn't hold up his own spine. And her mother told my client that her dad felt horrible. Not only that he had dropped her that day, but also that he wasn't able to play with her and show affection to her like he used to. And apparently before this, he always would show affection to her, as much as he could before he got this diagnosis. Now, this is interesting because my client's father passed away in a car accident 6 months later after this 4th birthday. And my client said at that time, she remembers thinking that he left her because she was unlovable. And she said she was so surprised, I'm getting angel bumps right now, and so relieved at what we uncovered together. And she said she also fully recognized that the 4-year-old child within was trying to protect her from being hurt in romantic relationships. So the reason I chose this example for you is because many of yours and my emotional triggers are hidden. And you need to remember that your brain is like a computer that stores all of your experiences and sorts them based on your emotional responses. But what causes the emotional trigger to arise is the stored memories of the original situation or experience, which in turn forms the basis for the programs, the mental programs that run into your present experience. Now, isn't that crazy wild? I mean, it seems like a natural, logical thing, but then when you really look at this, it's like, wow, aha. So this is something I can undo then, because if it's a hidden memory, I can learn to uncover this memory and find out why am I being triggered in the first place, right? So the best way for me to explain it, I know what I just explained, some of you are probably going, I'm sleeping, but the best way to explain it to you is like an old film projector replaying an old memory response to a current emotional stimulus. So it's the old film replaying, saying this is what's going on now because of the flawed perceptions of the kid, right? The inner child at that time. So that's the best way for me to explain it. But are you guys following me so far? I know I'm kind of going fast. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? If so, just type in the box, I get it, yes, or great, yes, 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 great. Yeah, 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 cool. And the important thing is, like I said, to you guys also, it means that regardless or not we're being triggered by external by the media or by the internal, by our own inner programs, regardless, you must look at the programs consciously or they will run you. Now I chose this, it's disturbing to me when I see these elephants here chained up, all right? But I chose this for a reason. Guess what? That's what our mental programs do to us, right? They chain us and make us think we're not strong. You know, that elephant can break those chains if it's so decided to do it. It's that strong. But I don't know if you guys heard how they train them. What they do as a young as young little babies, they will tie either a rope or a chain, like a lighter chain, around their leg. And so they think as the baby, they think, oh, I can't move because that chain's on me. So as they grow up, guess what? They think they can't move. And it might be even just a small little string. And that's what our own internal programs do to us. They do that. So we have to learn to look at them consciously or they'll run us, right? So how then, this is the most important question that we want to know because we don't want to learn how to do this, right? How can you and I avoid being emotionally triggered in the first place, right? One of the things that we need to remember, and before I share some of these with you, and we're gonna go through each of these separately here in a minute, but we're not going to be able to totally avoid and get rid of every single one of our emotional triggers because they're like layers of an onion, but we can learn to discover them, right? And it's just, if you're having an emotional response that is just out of proportion, the biggest thing for you to do is just stop and say, wow, this is totally out of proportion. Let me take a deeper look at this. When do I remember, or can I remember, or if I could remember, what would this circumstance be that the original stimulus happened for me? What would that be? And you write it down on a piece of paper and do some meditation and journaling, and you'll get to it, right? Obviously, you can do a lot of deep inner child work, but we don't have to go that deep to figure out we're being triggered because we feel it, right? So these are some of the ways to, if you are in the midst of a trigger or the end of the trigger and even before, you can do these beginning, middle, or end of a trigger, being emotionally triggered. The first is belly breathing, and we're going to go through, like I said, each of these separately. The second is to become the observer, and the third is to initiate some self-love. So let's take a look at this first one here. And by the way, you guys, belly breathing is the absolute best thing you can do at any time to reset yourself emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. It is amazing, and it has a lot of incredible health benefits. So I want you to take a look at this slide that I shared for you, because did you notice she has one hand on her chest and one hand on her belly, right? She's linking her heart chakra to her lower abdomen, to where right underneath her belly there, to her navel chakra. So what she's doing, she's lining everything up. And you know that the bridge of your chakras is your solar plexus chakra. So look at, she's encompassing both. I'm grounding myself and rooting myself, and I'm re-empowering myself, and I'm filling my heart chakra. So it's just amazing energetically what this does for you. But what you do, as it says here, you just put, and even if you're sitting there, try this. Put one hand on your chest, and people ask me, well, what hand do I put over my heart chakra? Always your dominant hand. Always put your dominant hand on your heart chakra. Okay, and when I do this, because I do heart opening meditation all the time, as soon as I touch my heart, I feel love. So when I'm doing that, I'm feeling a lot of love right now. So one hand on your chest, the other on your belly, and really it's you put your thumb on top of your belly button, right on your belly button, and then your palm right below it, and then you're in a proper space for your own body, right? So what you do, you inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4. So you would be 1, 2, 3, 4, inhaling in, and what you do, you make sure as you're inhaling, you expand your belly. So your hands on your navel chakra, so you just feel the belly expanding. So I'm inhaling in and pushing my belly out, feeling it expand. And then I exhale through my mouth for a count of 4. And you do that rhythmic breathing cycle for a few minutes, and you'll notice the stress just start to leave your body, and you'll notice that the mind and spirit becoming calmer and calmer and calmer. Now, there's something about this, you really need to know this, and I shared this in some meetings before, so if you heard this, it just means you need to hear this again. But there is something incredibly magical about this breathing cycle. Because, and they teach this, you guys, this rhythmic breathing, they teach it in psychic development circles all the time. This is primary. Why? It's because this rhythmic breathing, it actually affects your brainwave patterns. It affects your the brainwaves of low alpha to high alpha and low theta. Okay, and they taught this breathing exercise to kids. They did a study, and what happened is that the kids started having these really extreme flashes of intuition. It just opened them up intuitively. And some of the parents kind of got upset because they said, hey, wait a second here, what are you guys teaching my kids, right? So, and this, it's silly, you know, how people do that, because this is just an old ancient breathing technique that they've done for centuries, I mean hundreds of years, and it originated in ancient China and it went out through India, right? So this breathing cycle, they do a lot of in yoga classes as well. But if you really want to not only learn to calm down, but to open your intuitive channels, this is a go-to little breathing. And I love doing breathing meditations too. So this is a beautiful one for all of you guys. And I love this technique. It's one of my faves. The next is to absorb the story. You know, observe the story. Now look at the little monkey there. The reason I put him there, oh my gosh, Mike said the other day when I was making this, he says, that monkey looks like you, Dar, when you laugh. And I'm like, thanks, honey. Anyways, the reason I put that there, you guys have all heard of the monkey in the mind, right? The monkey mind is a Buddhist concept to where your thoughts, your incessant thoughts, the chatter of your mind, it's all around. So I put that there because we all have that, the monkey in our mind, the chatter, the story, right? You have to observe the storyline, because many of the stories that are going on around us, they're lies. They're not even true, right? And have you guys ever played that game Telephone? Remember as kids, you'd whisper something in somebody's ear, and by the time it came back to you, it's totally not what it was. Everyone has their own story. Our brain does that to us. So if you're being emotionally triggered, you stop after you do some breathing, reset yourself, and you look at the story, just the facts. Okay, well, the facts here, what happened is that I was really tired and I snapped at my husband and he snapped back, and it came into an argument. That's the truth. Instead of the story of, I don't understand why he verbally attacked me and made me so upset. I can't believe he did that to me. You know, the story is being a victim here, right? So you have to really look at the story, and this takes some practice and it takes some inner dedication. So usually what I do when a story happens, I ask myself, okay, is this true? Like I'll go back and see the different things. Is this true? Is it what I just said about the stories is really true? And then I say, oh, well, no, it's not, because I know it's not. If I'm going to be overly triggered with an emotional response, it's not true, right? It's not true unless, you know, unless, like I said, some of our triggers, I'm not triggers, our emotions are positive, then we know that's a true story. But we're talking once again about emotional triggers. So observe the story. Is this true or not, right? Just observe the story. The third one is self-love. Self-love, self-nurture, right? That's the first thing we need to do, you guys, especially after we are emotionally triggered some way, is to let ourselves off the hook. And what do I mean by that? A lot of times, especially because many of you here are empaths, we feel bad. We feel guilty. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I exploded that way at her or him. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Oh, you know, we put ourselves down. You idiot, you stupid, you know, who do you think you are? You know, that's the second thing. You put yourself down, right? Don't do that. learn this, realize, hey, you know what? This is a self trigger. This is a self trigger. Learn from it and move on. Do you notice what on the video that I chose for you, the gal was hugging herself? Literally, literally after it happens, literally after you're emotionally triggered, get yourself into the habit of just holding yourself. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it works. Hold yourself and say, oh my goodness, it's okay. We'll do better next time. It was just an emotional trigger. We're going to learn about this. We're not going to put ourselves down. After all, you might be being a spiritual being in a physical body having a human experience, but you're human first, right? So it's just getting us off our own high horse. And a lot of times, guess what? When we get feeling guilty and sad, that's an emotional trigger from when we're little that we're not allowed to express our emotions, right? So isn't that like a catch-22? Just cracks me up. So how are we doing here, you guys, in the chat box? Are you guys understanding this? And is it helpful? Great, 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 cool. Okay, one of the things too that you can do for your energy body here is just to, there's a lot of different things here. Let me just switch slides here. For your energy body, we're going to do this quick reset technique here in a minute, but there's some other things before this that you can do. One of the most amazing things you can do, and I forgot to put this on there, so I'm going to tell you right now. Number one is to hydrate yourself. You take some water afterwards. The other thing is, and this is really, it works every single time. Have you guys ever heard, I know people make fun of it now, it's kind of like an old, male joke, go take a cold shower, but guess what? Cold showers or tepid showers. Tepid is when the water is just room, it's just room temperature. It is proven to reset your neural pathways. Proven. They've proven this. So if you are just really in an extreme emotional trigger, just get yourself in that shower, tepid shower or cold shower, whatever it needs to do to make you breathe. They said that the reason like cold showers work the best is because it shocks your neurosystem. Think about it. When we get into cold water first, what do? Right? That whole thing releases stress and tension, not only out of the physical body, but out of your neurology, out of your nervous system, right? Isn't that cool? That's easy, easy, easy. The other thing is to breathe. I gave you the technique just now, the rhythmic breathing, right? You can just do some deep breaths without even having to do that. If you're in the middle of an emotional trigger, or you're just trying to reset afterwards, to stay grounded or to return to groundedness, this is simple. Just keep repeating your name silently to yourself. And if you want, you can say it out loud, but a lot of times when we're triggered, we're around other people, right? It's the truth. So you can just say it to yourself, your name, and it just will reground you. You can also do physical things afterwards, or if you just want to just to reset yourself totally, do physical things. Take a walk, do some yoga, do some jumping jacks, right? Run, ride on a recumbent bike, whatever you can. Do some chair stretches, whatever you can do to get yourself to a place of peace. This other one, this works as well. Simply go take a nap. When you go lay down and you take a nap, what happens is that you allow the energy that's in your auric bubble to dissipate. It just stops. And so do your brain waves that are in this agitated state. It relaxes your neurology. It resets yourself spiritually. It resets yourself emotionally and mentally. And then when you wake up from a nap, you're refreshed, you're reset, and you're ready to go, right? Oh, look. I put repeat your name to yourself several times twice. It must be important. You know how when my peeps repeat, or our peeps in our spiritual team in sessions, they say something twice, it's important. Must be really important there. All right, that's just to add a little bonus. I'm just gonna pretend like I put that in there. Okay, let me go to the next slide here. Okay, this is the bonus. Oh my gosh, you guys are gonna love, 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 love this. This is my favorite. I use this on myself all the time. Of course, you guys know that I'm well versed in energy medicine. So this is something that I learned. We have meridians in our body. We all know that. And the meridians in our body, they end at our fingertips and our toes. And obviously, if you're being triggered or you need to give yourself some energy, it would look really funny to be holding your toes, right? So we don't really want to do that. We want to actually just use what we have on hand. Get it? That's a pun. Sorry, that was really bad. But it made me laugh when I thought about it. So I just had to share that. Okay, yes, I am a ham for those of you who are new here. So what you do, look at here. You see the thumb, worry, then your index is fear, then you have anger, grief, blah, 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 right? What you want to do, whatever you're feeling at the time. Now, sometimes people say, well, I don't know what I'm feeling. If you don't know and you're just so emotionally distraught and you can't really determine what you're feeling, hold on to the index finger where there's fear. Hold on to that one. It'll reset everything. And you can even just choose that one all the time, right? So what you do with it, you take your dominant hand, and you put your, we'll just use the index. So I want you guys to do this with me, okay? You put your index finger inside the palm of your hand and you close it up. It's almost as if like when you're a little kid, when you're gripping your mom or dad's finger. For me, it was my dad's finger. I would hold on my dad's finger. So you would just grip it. Now, what you want to do is make sure when you grip it, you want to make sure that it's the inner side of the finger, right? Almost like you're having your fingers together like scissors. It's the inner side of your finger touching your palm. And then you'll squeeze the fleshy part of your finger on the underneath with your fingers, right? So you just hold on to that. And if you need me to show you this actually in real time, we'll do it here in a minute. But you hold on to that. So if you're all holding on to that, what we do now, and this is what we do, I want you, because we're right now, think of something that agitated you just recently. Anything. It could be anything. Could be you got in an argument last week or something on the news, okay? And you just hold that memory just for a second as you're holding your finger. Now, what I want you to do is just imagine that your right hand is sending funny things, funny thoughts. So think of some funny thoughts and imagine that your palm of your hand has eyes, or it's like a little projector, and it's projecting that funny into your hand here. And I'll explain what you're doing here in a minute. So just you think of something. You can think of something that's funny, something that made you laugh. You can think of something funny that you saw on TV. You can think of some funny music. I mean, like right now, the funny thing that I'm thinking of was when I was a young girl and I was playing ping pong with my grandfather, and I just started bursting out laughing and I didn't even know why. It just was so funny, the whole thing of us playing ping pong. It just made me laugh. And I think it was because of the way my grandpa was playing, it was funny. Anyway, so think of something funny and just keep doing that. And then stop and then think of that thing again that triggered you. Think of it again. And then project again, project some funny things again. And what you'll find is that you'll start feeling lighthearted because you're putting humor and stuff into that meridian. And that's what you're doing. Essentially, what you're doing, you can take your hands off now. What you're doing, if you see in the middle, right here, I don't know if you guys can see my pointer, but if you look in the middle of the hand chakra there, that is your energy center. It's one of your chakras. And what you're doing when you're holding on to that, especially when you're squeezing your finger, you're actually stimulating the nerves that are associated with the emotions of fear. And so you're resetting yourself. And you can do this with any finger if you're feeling worried. Send humor, send love, send laughter. You can even think of loving things that happen to you. But for me, for some reason, humor works the best. And also for the people I share this with. But you can send love, you can do humor, but you can do it with anything, any finger. You do the same process. And what you're doing, like I said, you're actually stimulating actual meridians in your body. It's just incredible. Instant, easy reset. You can do anywhere and no one will even know what you're doing. right? Except if you burst out laughing. And you know, fair warning here. I mean, when I started getting used to doing this technique, I mean, I would think of a funny situation or event, and I'd start cracking up laughing, and people like, "What are you doing?" Here I'm holding my finger, especially Mike, "What are you doing over there?" Just laughing to myself, right? So this bonus technique, it's amazing, and it really works, guys. It works. All right, let me move here. 1 second. I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a rut. Let me move over here. There we go. Okay, so what we want to do, I know that this was really, really fast. Yeah, yeah, and I'll show you a demonstration when we you know, come back to the camera here, and we'll come in a minute. But just I want to let you know, I know we went fast, but this can go so deep. So I wanted to give you almost like an emergency kit, you know, like you know how you have a little emergency first aid, but this is for your emotions in mind, because there's going to be, and this is from my own spiritual team, I'm giving you all a heads up. Once again, they picked this for you. They hand picked this. The reason that they did it, there's going to be some heavy things coming up. And so I'm just sharing the 411 forward to all of you, just so you can be prepared and that you can stay safe. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone. I mean, everyone knows things right now are pretty strange and really shaky, but we can keep our peace.